But now I'm one of the co-presidents of the Be Kind to Your Heart Foundation, which is a club that we just started to raise awareness of sudden cardiac arrest. We're actually having our first heart screening event in December. So that's something really exciting. That's one thing about Chapman is if you want to do something, you have a passion for it. There are always avenues for you to be able to do that and accomplish that. I'm also involved in SSLC, which is Schmid's Student Leadership Council. And we kind of, I think Mo's in that too, right? We kind of work around the college level to facilitate between faculty, staff, and students. Yeah, those are my primary ones. Career goals, I'm also interested in med school, but we'll see.
Thank you, Sydney. And Amanda, can you share about yourself?
Yeah, so hi, I'm Amanda. I'm a senior biochemistry major at the moment. I'm also in the 4+1 accelerated food science master's program, along with doing an ethics cluster to finish up my major. If you want to know what a cluster is, I can definitely talk about that. I'm also working in a research lab with Dr. Rosalie Helberg, doing it on food fraud. And some of the clubs that I'm in right now are SGA. I'm the president of ASB&B, and I'm in ACS, which is the chemistry club. So yeah.
Great, thank you. So just a reminder to our guests, we have a Q&A box and you can write your questions in there. And so while we're waiting for your questions, I'm going to kick off with our first question to our students is why you chose your specific major. So why don't we start with Sydney? Why did you choose biology?
So I wasn't actually sure what I wanted to go into at Chapman. I was actually debating between somewhere in the sciences and somewhere in the arts. I decided to choose the sciences because that's something I'm a little bit weaker in. So I wanted to learn more about that. And I was looking for a major that would offer me the base sciences, so I could explore different ones and see where I wanted to go. I ended up sticking with biology because it's a pretty large major and you get to see a lot. There are different emphases you can take. So it just depends on what you're interested in: molecular, anatomy, physiology, there's ecology, evolution. It had a lot of options for me.
Thank you. Arabella, do you want to say why you chose philosophy?
Yeah, sure. So I did not come in as a philosophy major, or art history, actually. I didn't come in as either of those. Switched my majors all around, and I actually discovered both of them through the general ed program at Chapman. For those of you that are listening, the GE program is so awesome. You get to try so many different types of classes. So really use that to, take the chance to explore, because you really don't know what you're going to end up finding that you like, which will happen to me. So I took a couple of classes for GEs, absolutely fell in love with it. And the major is great to pair with other ones. It's not that many credits. It's actually one of the smallest in terms of a major that is I think it's around 30 credits for the entire major. And a lot of freedom, again, to kind of design how you want the major to go. Lots of classes that you can kind of choose from in different categories that you have to satisfy. So I really liked that part of it too, because you get a lot of flexibility academically with it. And I just think it pairs with everything. I also just overthink a lot. So it's nice to be in a major that is you overthink, let's get graded for it. So that is awesome. But I really, really do love it. And I think it honestly can pair with any combination of anything from the sciences to the arts to anything in between.
Great. Mo, can you share why you chose biology?
So actually I came in as a comp sci major, and then 2 weeks before school started, I decided to change to a bio major. And I honestly, if you're coming in from high school and you're trying to figure out what major you want to go into, do what you love. Because the reason I picked comp sci at first was because I was scared of going in as a bio major. I've heard it was very hard and all those things, but I think a thing that Chapman has always helped with has been the amount of support that the professors give you. They're always there, office hours. You also have SIs there that pretty much every single week that help you with whatever concepts you've learned. Honestly, looking back at it, it was one of the best decisions I've ever made. And the reason I personally love biology was because there's so many different pathways you could take after undergrad. Personally, right now, I'm looking at the pre-med path. So I want to go into med school. So a lot of the courses I need to take for the MCAT overlap with the bio major. But if that doesn't end up working, I know I could always go for a PhD or something in research. So there's always different options with it. And that's honestly why I picked it.
That's great. And Amanda, share about yours.
Yeah, so I actually, going into Chapman originally, I wanted to be a chef. So I was in between two colleges of being hospitality. And then I finally came into Chapman, actually first as undeclared, and then I really quickly went into chemistry. And then once I knew about the food science program and looking at the courses that I needed to take, and also just taking general chemistry and general biology classes, I found like a love for both of them at the same time. So biochemistry basically found that middle ground for me. So that's why I eventually just switched over to biochemistry. Plus, it's really good for my master's program. So it just works out.
That's great. I love that. All right, so we have our first question, and it's for Sydney and Mo, but also maybe if the other ones want to chime in as well. The question is, what are the internship volunteering opportunities like for pre-med students at Chapman? Do one of you want to go first?
Mo, you can go first.
All right. So I think the biggest one, like we have a lot of connections with COPE, which is one of the volunteer programs around here. So like if you're trying to get your clinical hours, volunteer hours, whatever it is, you could kind of apply for this program. It's at a lot of the local hospitals like Chalk, St. Joseph's, Kaiser, whatever you want to do. And I think the coolest part about that is you get to experience so many different floors throughout the program. So like there's a med search tele floors, OR is a big one, ER, anything you could really think about, it's there. And I think one of the best parts about it is you could also like build your leadership throughout the program. So you always have opportunities to grow through it. So I know Chapman has like great relations with them. So that's always an option. Another club that we have was AMSA. That's our like American Medical Student Association. So they always have like students coming in. I think the most recent one was from Stanford. They also have admissions, like personnel come in, talk about like what they expect. And even like Chapman or Schmid as a whole, they always like bring in people that help you kind of like figure things out. So I've found that helpful.
Yeah, I definitely agree with all of that. Chapman has a lot of resources to connect you with other people and communities. And I know Sarah used to work on the internships. Do you still do that? Yeah.
Yes.
She puts together a really nice list of all the internships and volunteer opportunities that are available in the area, and that gets sent out like weekly for Schmid students. I'm actually from Hawaii, so most of my volunteering and internship was done over the summer and in my home state. So if that's something you're interested in, I know a lot of the schools, like workload wise during the school year, is kind of heavy, especially for STEM majors. So if you're interested in volunteering over the summer, or you're not from around the area, there's a lot of ways that you can reach out and connect there. And a lot of our professors will actually help you fast track all of those kind of internship applications. A lot of those happen in the summer, and the professors here are really on top of it. They know what's available. They know how to help. We have resources for like the MCAT. SSLC did a series of MCAT prep events. We brought in speakers, panelists. AMSA does a lot of work with that. There are a few other clubs on campus like first aid and stuff where you can kind of get around the area of pre-med and then figure out what you're really interested in.
That's great. And yeah, to emphasize what Sydney was saying, we as a college send out a Schmid weekly newsletter, and a big chunk of that newsletter is dedicated to career development. We post workshops that we recommend you attend. And then at the very bottom is just a long list of internship and job opportunities that we want to share with you. Is there any, Amanda or Arabella, did you want to share anything? No? Okay. Sounds good. Okay, so I'm going to move on to my next question. We have a fairly new building that Schmid College is in called the Keck Center for Science and Engineering, and we share it with our neighboring school, Fowler School of Engineering. But it's a beautiful space. It's only 3 years old. And because part of COVID, a lot of our students were home, it still feels very new. And so I wanted to ask the students, what's your favorite spot in the Keck Center? Like, how do you enjoy the space? Arabella, do you want to start?
Ooh, great question. So first one is, it's very nostalgic. Freshman year, I used to go up and on the, I believe it's the second floor, third floor, the study lounges that line the like football field. I used to go up there with my friends and we just hang out on the couches and like watch the soccer game, watch the sunset. You can see the Disney fireworks from up there too. So it's a very nice place to study and just be in that environment. And then the other thing, little promo, with my museum studies teacher, actually, I did some outside research with him and we just established, so the Keck Center actually combines, it's like an intersection of a lot of things and there's a lot of art throughout the building. And so we started a thing called Panther Perspectives where we got students to weigh in their interpretations of the art pieces and we put in QR codes around the Keck Center with, you know, the pieces that students weighed in on that you can scan and actually listen to the audio for. And we just put that up like 2 weeks ago. So that's very exciting and new. So I feel like I left my little mark on little stickers around the Keck Center. So that's all over. But in terms of studying, definitely those lounges along the football field are my favorite.
Awesome. And yeah, I've seen the little Panther Perspective QR codes around and they're super fun. So thanks for doing that. Mo, do you want to share your favorite spot?
Yeah, so I think Arabella stole my spot, which was the third floor. I think we all agree it's one of the best spots on campus. But if you just want to like chill out, do homework, and so under this the McCardle steps, so if you see like Sarah's background, right under it, there's like an orange room, and it's like the couches are huge. So like you could just kind of like put your legs up in a way and just like do homework or whatever. But if you just want like a quiet place and all that, I know the other side of Keck where the Fowler School is, there's a lot of like cubbies in a way where you could reserve the room and just go in for like 2-3 hours and just do homework, which has always been helpful. But honestly, like anywhere you go throughout Keck, there's always like somewhere where you could sit, which has always been like beneficial for me, like especially like between classes and like hanging out with friends. But yeah, it's a great way to meet people, especially like throughout the open spaces.
Awesome. Amanda, you want to share your favorite spot?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm gonna sound like a little sciencey person, but I love the labs. I'm like, I literally go into the labs and I'm like, this is so nice. I love it. All the nice new equipment. But also there's a room like right as you walk into Keck, we call it the fishbowl, and it's basically like a baby little conference room, and like it's just a great place for like you and your friends to hang out and study, and then but also like you can't really hear anything from the outside, so that's always like a really good place to just hang out and study and with friends. So it's super fun.
Awesome. And yeah, the Keck Center was really built to be a collaboration space. And so there are these little conference rooms that students can utilize. And the fishbowl she's talking about, the Moskowitz conference room, that is specifically for students, and it's first come, first serve, but it's we don't use it for any other like faculty or meeting spots. It's just for the students to use. Sydney, you want to tell us your favorite spot?
Sure. I actually like the second floor benches that are by the lab room. So a lot of professors will have like lab spaces, and there are a row of benches that are outside so you can watch them do their experiments. It's really fun. There's also outlets there. I'm always looking for an outlet, but there are some pockets of Keck where you don't see a lot of people walking around. So it's really nice and quiet in those areas. We also have, I think on the third floor, a few outdoor-ish balcony areas that have study spaces available. So those are also really nice.
That's great. And so just a reminder, if you guys have a question, feel free to enter it into the Q&A, and we'll be sure to answer it for you. I'm going to start with another question. And it's, what is your favorite part about being a Schmid student? I know Arabella just became a Schmid student, so I'll let her go last, but why don't we start with Amanda?
I think the best thing about being a Schmid student is the camaraderie around like the other students that are actually in Schmid and all the professors. Like literally even just getting into my major as a chemistry major, I still know everyone in my orientation group till this day as a senior. Also, it's just like great with all the professors. Like literally I'll walk by them in the hallway, they like know my name even though I haven't had them for 2 years. Like it's just such a nice thing to like be able to actually like know a lot of people, especially in Keck where I semi-live, but yeah, it's just so nice like being able to know and talk and have study groups with the people in that major. So yeah.
Awesome. Sydney, you want to share your favorite part about being a Schmid student?
I think I really enjoyed that there are a lot of resources available to students. I came in kind of lost, and that's totally okay. You can feel lost for a while. I did for my first few years, but there are so many resources available. And if you don't know where they are, you can ask any professor. The professors here are amazing. I think Schmid, I might be biased, but it has the best faculty and staff on campus, in my opinion. So I just, it's amazing that you can have these relationships with your professors. Like they get to know you as people. You get to talk to them outside of just that student classroom type of environment. And it's really nice because you can talk to them about other things you're interested in. A lot of them do research that are separate from their classroom experiences. They have like connections to other programs that they can introduce you to. My one professor, I go and talk to him about, I haven't had him since like freshman year, but I talk to him about everything. So he reads all my writing, all of my other things. Dr. Short, she's one of the deans here. I think she's the dean of external relations. Yeah. So Dr. Schwartz is a really great person to know. There's just a lot available to you as a student here, and you're never really alone. Even if you're lost, you're like never alone. You can always ask for help.
I love that. Mo, how about you share about why you love to be a Schmid student?
I think Amanda and Sydney just did a great job like explaining it all. Like wherever you go, there's always going to be someone to like talk to, and whether it's like professors or like your like students in Schmid or anything like that, there's always someone you know. And I think a lot of it has to do with like how tight of a group it is, like starting off like freshman year. And even like if you're coming from an outside like major, like you're changing majors or whatever it is, it's very welcoming. And I mean, like Schmidt, like Keck as a whole, it's like it's meant to be like a home, and sometimes like you lose track of time, which is it's really bad because like I'll come to school at 8 in the morning and then I'll leave at 10. I'll be like, wait, what happens to the day? But other than that, I'd say like professors are really there for you all the time, no matter what. Whether it's like you need help finding research, finding someone to talk to, like regarding a certain project you have in mind, really anything you have in mind, they almost like always have an answer to. Like I remember the other day, I went to Dr. Schwartz and I told her, like it would be really cool if we could decorate Keck. She was like, all right, sounds good. I'll be emailing someone for you. Let's get this going. Like whatever you need is they're always willing to like help you out with it, and they're there to support you. And I think that's like the greatest part about it. Personally, like I came to Chapman because of kind of that relationship I wanted to have with like faculty members, and it's been nothing more than or less than I expected.
Awesome. And we were looking forward to decorating the Keck Center for the holidays. We're really excited. Arabella, you're new to Schmid. So, you know, in your experience, what's been a good part for you?
Yeah, totally. Well, everybody talked about the awesome faculty. This is true because philosophy's in there now. The philosophy faculty is so amazing. I talk about it with my fellow students all the time. But I think something that I can talk about that I've realized, and this is across campus, but especially now, I feel that it's so nice to be in an environment where everybody is so passionate about what they're doing. I feel like all the students are just so driven and so creative and innovative, and given the opportunity to explore, they're like able to find where their passions really lie and pursue projects that are interesting to them. And, you know, they're doing research and they're constantly putting out these crazy things. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, these people are my age or younger and doing all this awesome stuff all the time. I think it's just really inspiring and super awesome to be around that sort of energy constantly, and to never feel like you're in competition with one another, but that you want to see everybody succeed because everyone's just on their own path. I love it. I think that kind of just overall feeling that I get around the students, you really can't match it. So that's probably my favorite part so far, especially getting to be back on campus in person.
Awesome. I love that. So we have a question from the audience, and it's a little bit of a two-part question. Do you have any advice for getting involved at Chapman? And what type of resources are there for getting help for a class? Sydney, do you maybe have some advice for this?
I actually have a little bit of advice for both. For getting involved at Chapman, we have club fairs where just club involvement fairs where you can kind of pick and choose what you want to try. And I did that. I probably signed up for maybe 10, went to all 10 for a first meeting, decided that was too many, and then kind of went to different ones. And I actually, most of the clubs that I tried to join my first year, I'm not in anymore. So the ones I'm in now, I found through friends or just mutual interest somewhere. I started the Be Kind to Your Heart Foundation with someone who graduated. So it's really what you make of it. And you can you can get involved with something that's there, or you can start something of your own, which is really nice. There's a lot of freedom to do so. So for resources, getting help for a class, we have what we call supplemental instructors. I'm one of those for anatomy, which is like bio and health sciences. So we kind of share that, but they're kind of like TAs and they're available for most of the STEM classes, especially the introductory ones. And what we do is we host external supplemental sessions that are optional for students to attend. And we kind of review the material. We do exam reviews. We help with content. I meet with a lot of students one-on-one just to talk about testing strategies and studying strategies. So there's that resource. We have a tutoring center that matches you up with someone who's already taken the course. They also have open hours. So if you need private tutoring, they'll set that up for you. If you just want help with some homework or some questions and your teacher's not available, they also will set that up as well. Professors here are really, really great about being open outside of class. So you can always walk up to their office. They have designated hours that are for students for help. So there's really an endless amount of resources for help that you can get. And if you don't know where to look, that's back to my other thing. Just ask anybody, any one of us can help you.
Awesome. Is there anyone else that would want to add to that? I think Sydney covered a lot of their resources. One of the other things that I've seen specifically that our Schmid Student Leadership Council started was a regular session throughout the semester called How to Study in the Sciences. And I know a lot of students have really taken advantage of that and just learned from the expertise of the seniors in the college that host that. So awesome. Okay, so for our next question, in Schmid College and in Fowler School of Engineering, it's a requirement for our students to participate in our Grand Challenges Initiative program. Our philosophy students, because they just were added to the college, do not have to participate in that unless they would like to. They always save some spots, but it's a really fun, unique program in your first years here in Schmid. And so I wanted to see if any of the students wanted to kind of share about their experience a little bit. Mo? Yeah, great.
All right, so like GCI is like completely different than any other class you'll take. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that like the amount of autonomy you have with the class. Like obviously there's gonna be assignments that are similar and stuff like that, but for most of the class, it's just what you want to do. So a little overview of what GCI is. It's pretty much like you get put into this class, you create a group of like -6 people, it's usually 5 to 6 students, and you take it through for like 2 years. And then the entire point of it is to kind of find this grand challenge that you want to solve. And then you kind of start writing up these, like reading up on it, writing up different procedures that you could possibly take to accomplish your goal. Like currently myself and my group are working on a project that uses nanoparticles to like kind of find the stability of different medications when you couple the nanoparticles. And we hope to like publish a paper on this. So I think the best part about this is they tell you when you first join the program, they're like, find something big, try to solve it. If you have a reasonable like explanation of how you're going to solve it, we're there for you, we're going to fund it. They never give you like a cap type of thing of how much you could spend or anything like that. They're just like, you do this, we got you, we got your back. And I found that it was hard at first just because of how different you need to approach the class, because it's a lot of critical thinking. But semester after semester, it's gotten way easier just because of the skills you develop. The assignments do help you like kind of formulate this new way of thinking. And I still even use that type of thinking in my other classes like OChem or Bio 205, Bio 204, and I'm sure I'm going to use it next semester in Bio 208. So if it's hard at first, don't worry. The professors are all there to help you. Just kind of enjoy the project that you're working on. Find a group that you're going to stick with throughout like the entire like 2 years or duration of GCI. And if it ends up working out, you could always take the project on for your entire undergrad, which is awesome.
Yeah, I think the key is finding the project that you're really passionate about and you're excited about. And then it becomes kind of a fun assignment, right? Like you get to work in your team and really just think creatively to solve this grand challenge. Does anyone else want to chime in, Sydney or Amanda?
I'm actually in the group that is carrying their project out through senior year.
Oh, great.
So like I was saying, you kind of run with this idea your first year and then it continues for 2 years. So into your sophomore year, my group was studying non-epileptic seizures. So we actually wrote up a case report. We went through an institutional review board process, which is what you need to do training for to work with human subjects. So we have a participant and our paper just went through to submission. So we're hoping it's in review right now and we're hoping that it'll eventually get published, but that's just one idea of what you can possibly do with the GCI program is if you have this project and you want to work on it longer, then it can extend into further research and it can go through a lot of places. It can go to conferences. It can just remain within the college. You can get it published. There's a lot you can do with GCI.
Great. And we do have a GCI information session on Monday. So if you you should have received an email invite. And so you can learn a little bit more about the specifics of the program in that information session on Monday. All right. And just a reminder, feel free to add some more questions. I've got a few left that we can run through, but we definitely want to hear from you and answer any questions you have. And so next question, maybe we could talk about research. And Amanda, I'd love to tap into you because I know you've been working with Dr. Rosalie on food fraud. What's it like to work on research as an undergrad? Like, what are you doing? Kind of share your experience a little bit.
Yeah, so I love working in the lab. So being able to actually do research is an amazing opportunity because they give you your advisor. So Dr. Helberg basically allowed us to basically go on our own. She taught us like what to do and then was like, you got this. Just like, let me know if you need any help, which was like a great preeminent because like obviously in the labs, like when you're taking like Chem 150 lab or Gen Chem lab, you're going to have a structure of what you're doing like every single day and being able to like kind of think outside the box, kind of think of like, oh yeah, why isn't this working correctly? Think how to like actually enhance it is really amazing. I love doing it. I just reached out to Dr. Helberg via email. I was like, I really like your research. So there's actually, I think, a page for Chapman with all the research that professors are doing. And you just email them, be like, hi, I'm really interested in your research. I was wondering if you had room in your lab to like, so I could help you out. And if they say yes, they say yes. If they say no, they ask if they have other professors that you think you can join. But it's a super fun experience. Actually, me and Mo work in the same lab, just on different projects. So mine's on fish fraud. Basically, I just pick up samples and then see if it's the right species. And Mo works on honey, which is super cool because we love honey. So,
Mo, share with us about the honey. What are you working on?
So I actually started this project over the summer. So I'm working with a senior right now on her capstone. Pretty much it's like a honey fraud type of project where we look at different moisture samples within the honeys. So if you ever need honey, stop by the lab. I could give you so much. We have too many. So pretty much we test the moistures and then there's a certain percentage that the moisture has to be within the honey. And if it's not, then that's obviously something that we need to look deeper into. And then a second branch of our project kind of looks at the different sugars that are put into the honey. So if it's not labeled, that for example, like fructose or like different like sugars are in there, like they need to be labeled on there. So we need to figure that out. I think the coolest part about this project right now, for me at least, has been the amount of different things I've been learning. And not specifically on honey, but just like concepts. Because a lot of these stuff that I'm learning is things I'm going to be taking in the future, like my senior year, like NMR, things like that. Those are things I haven't learned yet. So it's definitely given me like a head start on those classes, and having like Vana and Dr. Halberg like working with me to explain all these different things has been amazing. And just like kind of like going backwards, going into into research was kind of scary for me because I've never like experienced it before. So my experience with it was I just sent like a crap ton of emails to like a whole bunch of like research projects I was interested in. And then I set up like a Zoom call with all those professors. And sometimes they will say no. And it's never because they don't want you in there. It's just because they already have too many students working there. But I think what was so helpful was they really get to know what you enjoy about their project and try to tailor or like kind of give you information on other projects that are going on within Schmid that you could possibly reach out to those professors and get involved with. And if you're not able to find that, they always like will keep your like name in mind. So if there is a spot open up, they will reach out to you. I've had that happen to me multiple times. So don't be scared, send that email, set up the Zoom meeting, and just get to know them.
Awesome. Thanks so much for sharing. Anyone else want to share about research? So why don't we, this is kind of a fun question, but what's a day in the life of a Schmid student? Like, can you give me kind of like a general overview of your day? What's it look like? I don't know. Anyone want to start? Amanda, let's go for it.
All right, so basically, we'll just go with like a typical Monday. We'll just go with that. We'll start with that. So basically I wake up, obviously get ready, and then I head over to Chapman because I am a commuter. I live like 10 minutes away from Chapman. I do my ethics class in the morning, super fun, professional ethics. And then I usually head into the lab for research because I also work for Dr. Helberg as a lab assistant. So I'll make sure that everything in the lab is working right and finish some research that I have to do. And then I usually do my homework, which can be anything from the class that I'm in that day to the class I'm in the next day, because I have night lab from 6 to 10. Super fun. We love night lab. It's actually a really cool, I feel like everyone at night, they just get a burst of energy a little bit after they start. So super fun. And then I go home. And then my Tuesdays and Thursdays are a lot more of my harder classes, but I also just have my lab meeting, do more homework and do more research basically, and then just go to class. So yeah.
Awesome. Sydney, you want to share?
I will share my Thursday schedule. So it's usually different starting out. Most STEM majors, when they come in, they start with 2 labs, and it's usually like general chemistry and general bio. And then you kind of progress into another bio and another chemistry, usually for the first couple of years. As a senior, I only have 1 lab now. That's just because I'm finishing up my major. So on Thursdays, I go into physiology, and I do a lecture, and then I go into the lecture course for what I'm SIing for. So I do anatomy supplemental instruction. So I sit in on the class just to take notes and see what they're learning. And then I have a class for my minor, and that's just a really random one. A lot of you will probably have a couple of core science courses, and then you'll have either 1 or 2 courses from GE program or from your minor. So there's kind of a mix. It's not all science. And then I do the same thing as Amanda. I have a night lab. It's 6 to 10, but I love it. It's really fun, especially if you're on the medical or pre-med track. There are some labs that are very laboratory based, and then there are some that are very like hands-on clinical based. So that's what I'm in right now. Is I did laboratory before, but now I'm doing more clinical things like blood pressure, EKGs. So that's really fun, and that's a Thursday.
Thanks for sharing. Arabella, do you want to share a little bit about what's your day like?
Yeah, totally. So similar to what Sydney's saying, the senior perspective is a little bit different, just because you're kind of wrapping up the required things. You have a little bit more flexibility, a little bit more on your own to kind of fill your days with whatever you want, which is like fun, I guess. But I feel like I am everywhere. I do like that there's always a balance, and that the way that Chapman sets up their programs is that you can do any combination of your major specific classes and GEs all 4 years. So you never feel like you're just like totally swamped in one area and you end up just becoming sick of it. I like that. So I can't really pick one day because honestly, every day is so different for me. I think having an on-campus job really breaks up the like school day feeling, because I'm on campus like from morning till night, but I'm not just doing classes, which is really nice, I think. So to those of you out there, that's my advice for getting involved, is think about things that you do normally. Like I just like work. I just feel better when I'm constantly working. So I'm like, well, what can I do on campus? More work. So that's kind of why I think my schedule changes every day. But right now, doing the philosophy peer advising has been really fun, because I get to kind of, I'll go to say like my tour in the morning, then I'll go to my senior seminar for philosophy, then I'll meet up with some younger students that need help with advising work, or working on trying to get a place for their work to be published, or a conference they can go to, or a speaker or something like that. And then I'll go to my art class for my other major, and then I get to go home. So I think it's a very well-rounded, well-balanced school life for me.
That's awesome. Mo, you want to share?
For me, I'm definitely like all over the place too. So I actually, yeah. So like in the mornings, I tend to like do all my classes. I try to do that. And then just like that 12 to 1 o'clock time, that's where I get my lunch, just take a break, and just like hang out with friends. Then after that, I have lab. I'm giving you guys an overview of my Wednesdays, which is like my busiest day. And then I have my OChem lab, which usually like takes anywhere between 3 to 4 hours. And the reason that it usually takes that long is just because like I like to like do things very like precise, which always takes longer. So you don't necessarily need to do that. And then the rest of my day is kind of more like clubs, meetings I have, and things like that. And I'd say the one thing that I've kind of found very helpful when doing registration is to kind of plan out what you think your clubs will look like for the next semester, because the last thing you want to do is like be really involved in the club and then not be able to go to those meetings just because of the class time. So kind of try to figure that out a little earlier, and then like talk to different professors, see like what times they're kind of like they have their classes set up, and then just sign up that way.
Yeah, that's great advice. I want to talk about, we've talked about your guys' day and how it can be a very hectic schedule with all your involvements and all of the heavy course workload of being a STEM major. How do you personally like either de-stress from the week, or are there things you do with friends on campus that kind of help to maintain that, good mental health and a good balance, like we were kind of have been mentioning? Does anyone want to share? Amanda, great.
It's like I can share because like whenever me and my especially my lab mates, when we're in the lab and we're just like, we need a break for like 1 second, like we're about to have like a stressful classes afterwards, especially on our Tuesdays. We have so many classes on top of doing research. So literally the Starbucks on campus, it's a really nice walk from the Keck Center, a little short walk, but it's nice. You get to be outside and then get a little coffee, take a little walk back. It's like a really nice way to just like go there, calm yourself, and basically just come back. Or basically me and my friends just watch TV and like just like watch a funny movie. Me and my friends have now been watching all the Star Wars, not the mocking, but like the Family Guy one and the Simpsons, or not the Simpsons, the Phineas and Ferb one, like just to like have funny stuff and just to de-stress. So yeah.
Anyone else want to share?
I can give a little bit of input. I'd say that the TV, so like if you guys didn't know, like throughout Keck, all the TVs have Apple TVs. So anyone can connect to them. So like definitely like watching these like meme videos and whatnot with like friends during those like times is like one of the best like ways to kind of like relax, like cool down for a bit. I actually don't like coffee as much. So the Jamba Juice in front of Keck is one of the best spots ever. You also have Einstein bagels there. So really like a 2-in-1 type of thing. Always go there, and just walk around. Honestly, like walking around campus, like I know I'm not trying to like convince anyone to like this is why Chapman, but like our campus is so beautiful. Like it's like it has so much greenery and stuff. Like just walk around with a friend or two. We have this like the piazza area, which has like fountains and stuff, which is always like relaxing, I found. But yeah, just walk around, chill out, take a break. It never hurts. because in the long term, you're just gonna burn yourself out. So it's really good to like just cool down. And if you really need to like to go back home or whatever, I think video games is the best thing ever too. Like you can still do stuff with friends and you just play video games, chill out for a bit, especially on weekends.
That's awesome. And yeah, a little plug, if you haven't been to campus yet, we do have in-person tours now and virtual tours, and specifically the Keck Center, we do them both in person and virtual. So we encourage you to be able to tour the Keck Center if you haven't yet already. We did have a question. Do local students from LA Orange County stay in the dorms or outside of campus? I think a little bit of both, right? Does anyone want to share their experience? I know, Amanda, you commute.
Yeah, so I commute. Chapman does have the, I don't know if it's code, but when I started, they had the 2-year mandatory have to be on campus living. But if you live within a certain mile vicinity, you don't have to live on campus. So since I'm literally like 2 miles from campus and I live with my parents, love the parents. And it like we were basically just sign a thing saying that, yes, I live within this vicinity. Here's my address. And they totally like, they don't void it, but they're like, okay, you're okay to live at home. You don't have to live in the dorms. So I have never lived in the dorms. I've only lived at my house the whole entire time that I've been at Chapman. So it's definitely the ability to either, you have the chance to either live at home or live in the dorms if you're within the vicinity. And I would just say like the one caveat to living at home is that obviously you don't get the dorm experience, which I know like is really helpful for a bunch of people. But through research, I'm also in a sorority and just the orientation group, meeting people on class, like I feel like I still got somewhat of a dorm experience just because I was hanging out with people that were actually living in the dorms. So yeah.
Anyone else want to share maybe what their dorm experience was like? Yes. Sounds good. We do have another question that came in. How hard is it to balance college sports like football with classes and prep for MCAT, etc.? Anyone?
I can talk a little bit about, I mean, I'm not prepping for the MCAT, but just in terms of like the balance between sports and school, because I was part of athletics. I'm not anymore, and that is like part of the talk that I can give. But yeah, so something that's really cool about coming to Chapman as a Division III university is that there are no athletic scholarships. So if you want to take a break, you're not going to be penalized. You're not going to jeopardize your financial aid for doing that for yourself. So it is fairly common in my own experience where I run cross country and distance track. And I just decided, junior and senior year, I was like, I did it. It was awesome. So much fun. But I want to spend a little bit more time in my professional development, in internships, in jobs, research, all that type of stuff. So I think that's something that's really cool, is that if you do get to maybe a semester where you will be studying for that exam, or you do get an awesome internship and you're just like, I actually can't balance it, I think you can if you really, really want to. But if you feel like it's becoming too overwhelming and you do have to something's got to give at some point, taking a break from your sport, totally okay. Nothing bad is going to happen. If anything, I think you'll realize that the majority of students do that at some point in time, just because it does get hard and you do have to weigh the pros and cons and find what works best for yourself. So that would be my best advice. I always tell people, if they're thinking about it, do it, try it out. And if you feel like you can't do it for another semester, there's no shame in that. And that's totally just part of the college experience.
Awesome. And then the athletic students that I know that they just from the very beginning of the semester, really just communicating with the faculty that they're an athlete. Our faculty are just amazing and they want to make sure you're having a good experience. And if you communicate to your faculty, you're feeling overwhelmed, I know that they're really helpful in working with you to try and make it a little bit more manageable if you're feeling overwhelmed with your work. All right, so we're kind of getting to the end of the hour, and I just want to finish with just a final question. Mo also put in the chat that you also get registration priority if you're an athlete, and that definitely is an awesome perk for sure. Okay, so final question again, but if you have any last minute questions, feel free to submit them to us. But just to kind of wrap things up, I wanted to ask you all to give one piece of advice for our incoming freshmen as they're making their decision to come to Chapman and, picking colleges, and what's kind of a one piece of advice for them that you have. Does anyone want to start? Got theirs off the top of their head? Mel, go for it.
I could start. I think the biggest advice I would give anyone coming into college in general really is don't be scared. If there's something eating at you, like, and you really want to do it, but you're not sure, just try it out. Like, the worst thing that could happen is like you find out you don't have time or you don't like it or whatever it is, and you just take a step back. I know like my freshman year, I was like so scared to like get super involved and stuff like that. And just looking back at it now, I'm like, I wish if I got involved, because I know with like the right time management, all that, I could have like handled it. So really just like, if there's something you want to do it, don't be scared. And there's always gonna be someone there to help you out with it.
That's great advice. Sydney, do you have any advice for the students?
Something really important to remember going into college and even throughout college is that you are on your own path. You never need to compare yourself to anybody else around you. You may be taking the same classes, you may be going for the same internships, the same jobs, but you are on your own path completely. And it is okay if you feel like maybe you're not doing what everyone else is doing, because that's what they're doing. That's something that's fitting into their lives right now, and maybe it doesn't fit for you yet. And that's perfectly okay. You need to go at your own pace, because that's how you prevent getting overwhelmed, you prevent burning out, is you go and do what's right for you at that time, and then you can explore. And it's okay to pick things up, to not be interested, to drop them, to try new things. It's never too late, really. And that's basically it, is just make sure that you take care of you and you're not worrying what all the other people are doing.
I love that. It's great. Amanda, you want to share your piece of advice?
Yeah, so, I mean, kind of going off of what Sydney was saying, like, just, it is your way, like, just do it. Because like I know if I could talk back to like freshman me or sophomore me, I'd be like, please hold off on the classes. Like, you can go an extra semester if you actually need to, because I definitely front loaded all of my classes, and I think you do not need to rush the process. Like, if you do that, it might hurt you in the end. So like, just know that doing it at a different pace than everyone else is completely fine. And again, the professors are going to be there for you. And the professors, like, literally you can go into their office and talk to them about anything, and they are willing to listen to you, and they're willing to be there. I mean, one of the reasons I actually chose Chapman was because I felt like I was an actual person, not a number. And I love that in class. Like, literally, if you raise your hand, they will call you out by name. Like, it's not like, oh yes, you over there. Like, they're like, oh, hi, Amanda. Like, what's your question? Like, that's what I loved about Chapman from the beginning, and I still love it till today. And yeah, that's my one piece of advice. So yeah.
Awesome. Arabella?
Yeah, I mean, everybody had such great advice. I agree with everything everybody said. So I'm trying to come up with something different. But I think along the same lines, it's going in without judgment is something that's really important of yourself and just of everybody. Which, I mean, I'm not saying that anybody on here is going to be judgmental, but I think it's just realizing, like Sydney was saying, that you're on your own path. And this even goes to just deciding where to go to college. Don't get caught up in the names. Don't get caught up, like, don't do that. It's so easy. I think also just with social media and just the world that we live in, it's very easy to do that and worry about the image, but ultimately you are the one that's going to be there for 4 years and living that experience. And ultimately you need to do what you like and what makes you happy, and not what you think you have to do or what's going to satisfy other people. And also, one thing now being a senior is realizing that every year might be different in college. I feel like I've lived like 4 different lives in this college experience, and that is the college experience. That is okay. You're supposed to be changing that much. You're supposed to grow, adapt, learn, change your path. That's why you go to school, to figure those things out. And you're not doing something wrong. If anything, you're doing something right if you feel like you're trying a bunch of different things out. So those are my biggest pieces of advice. I feel like a wise old lady, but also simultaneously like 5 years old at the same time. But that, just rest assured, if you all out there have been able to tell by this panel, you will figure it out. And that's part of the fun along the way.
Awesome. All right. Well, I'm going to drop in the chat our Schmid College email. If you guys have any other questions that maybe you think of later, feel free to email us and I can always forward it to our students, or we can connect you with a student that maybe mirrors your experience more. I'd be happy to do that as well. But thank you for joining our info session today, and we wish you the best of luck in your college choosing journey. And so have a great Saturday. And thank you to our panelists. I really appreciate you all being here on your Saturday. And I know you all are busy students. So thank you.